Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Louisville Metro Police Detective Aaron Tinelli noticed kids playing outside the alley in the residential neighborhood before he went inside a vacant home with overgrown grass. That was in 2016. Years later, Detective Tinelli fought back tears as he testified about that call he was responding to in the 4,000 block of River Park Road right around lunchtime. What he saw was heinous. Detective Tinelli, an 18-year veteran on the force, was a father after all. In the back of the vacant house in the tall grass were 2 dead teenage boys. They had been badly beaten. Their bodies had been burned.
What did you note about the bodies?
Upon approaching the children, first thing we noticed is that they were laid out. There was no sign of like a struggle or other signs that there was like some kind of disturbance within it besides the actual bodies themselves and the actual burning of the bodies. So the first thing I noticed is that there's a good chance that they were not killed there or murdered there.
Police canvassed the neighborhood, looking for houses with security cameras, but no such luck. They needed to identify these 2 young victims, so they went through missing persons databases, locally and nationally, to see if they might get a hit.
You're looking at these 2 children and you're trying to guess age, you're trying to guess weight, you're trying to guess all these things to give her as much information so that she can go to these databases and try to get you a range of possibilities, which is extremely difficult.
A list of potential names was started. But in the meantime, the autopsies were performed. It was impossible to get their fingerprints because they were too charred from having been burned. Detective Tinelli came up with another idea.
I came up with the idea that we would contact one of our CSU techs that was also a forensic artist. That's CSU tech, Aaron Wright. And I asked her if she could do a rendering of the 2 kids so that if we had to put that on the news or someplace else to have the community help us identify these kids, that we could use them. She agreed, and we took photographs of the kids as they were, and she began her renderings.
Why couldn't you just put the photographs on the news?
Nobody needs to see that on the news. That's your child. To see that for the first time would be that would be devastating.
The sketches were put on the news, and an assistant principal from a local high school reached out and said she believed she knew the kids' identities. The investigators now had names. The victims were half-brothers, 14-year-old Larry Ordway and 16-year-old Maurice Gordon. Police spoke with their mother, Elizabeth Wren.
Did Miss Wren give you information about her son's phone?
Yes, she did. One of the questions we asked, which would be a question you would ask any parent, is why didn't you file a missing persons or contact the police. And she had stated that she had been in contact with one of their friends, and their friends had said that they were out to the store and he was using their phone to call when they get back. And that information led us to another part of the investigation.
Did she provide you with a phone number?
She did.
And were you able to do anything with that phone number?
Yes, we were able to take that phone, considering the information that we had from the house and the fact that a relative time frame of when the kids were last there. We took that phone number and we used that phone number and the assistance of the U.S. Marshals to start pinging that phone.
The ping led Sergeant Jason Vance to an address, to a house, to recover the phone. Investigators were curious about who would have told Mrs. Wren that her sons were at the store when she had called.
What happened when you got there?
Made contact with the homeowner and her daughter. It was a bi-level house. So when you walked into the living room, immediately to the right, there was the second level was maybe 6 feet higher than the level you're standing on. And I had a clear view into a bedroom up a short set of stairs. And I observed an individual on a cell phone. And when he saw me, he took the cell phone immediately, concealed it under the mattress.
Were you able to collect that cell phone?
I was.
The boy who was hiding the phone was 15-year-old Anwan Carter. The phone was Maurice Gordon's. Anwan was taken to the police station. Investigators had plenty of questions. Today's case is one with not just 2 victims, but 3. Multiple suspects, sordid details, and even outbursts in court.
I don't know if y'all got some type of sexual relationship going on or what y'all got going on, but I'm definitely going to speak my mind.
This is Jillian in partnership with Law and Crime. You're listening to Court Junkie, episode 270. "16-year-old Maurice Gordon and 14-year-old Larry Ordway had been good boys, according to their grandma, Debbie Wren. The 2 half-brothers, who were always together, played sports and got along with everybody. They were well-liked at school. They had a tough life living in poverty. Their fathers weren't in their lives, and their mother, Elizabeth Wren, had a hard time making ends meet. Sometimes the family didn't have enough food to eat. Aside from Maurice and Larry, they also had a younger sister. If the boys had lived, they would have met their baby sister, who was born in September 2017. It was clear Maurice and Larry's deaths devastated their families. Debbie Wren cried in court as she talked about their personalities. Their mother, Elizabeth Wren, had to be restrained from trying to physically attack the man accused of murdering them, Brice Rhodes. The name Brice Rhodes came up quickly in the investigation. Brice, who was 25 years old in 2016, was an aspiring rapper. He was taken to the police station for an interview on May 24, 2016, a couple days after the murders. Detective Aaron Tonelli interviewed him.
Well, here's the thing, man. We are looking for 2 missing kids. And we don't know. We heard that you might know where they might be, or you've seen with them, or talked to them, any way, shape, or form. Anything you could help us to find them, we would appreciate it. Who are they? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. Maurice.
And who else?
And Larry.
I know him. Yeah.
Have you seen him lately?
I haven't seen him about a week.
You haven't seen him in a week?
Brice sat relaxed, baseball cap on his head, and told Detective Tonelli that he hadn't seen the boys in a week. He said the last time he saw them, they were playing basketball. Brice said he was cool with them. They played ball and hung out from time to time. "It's a big neighborhood. Everybody hangs with everybody," he said. "Did they run away or what happened?" he asked. He added he had even tried to get a hold of Maurice and Larry himself. During the interview, Brice bashed the boys' mother, calling her a substance abuser. And, he said, the boys were in a gang. He told Detective Tonelli that they were also caught up in drama at the basketball court. At the same time as Brice was giving his interview to police, Anwan Carter, the teenager who had been caught in possession of one of the boys' cell phones, was also at the station. Anwan had a chilling story to tell, and it involved Brice Rhodes and another murder victim. Anwan Carter was 22 years old when he testified at trial. Back in 2016, he was 15 years old. Anwan told the court that he knew Maurice and Larry from school. Maurice, Larry, and Anwan were close. They met girls and hung out together, he said. Anwan had only known then 25-year-old Brice Rhodes for 2 or 3 weeks. The group of teenagers and 20-somethings, Maurice, Larry, Brice, Anwan, and another young man named Keur, who was Anwan's cousin, were smoking in a backyard one day and scheming. Brice, the oldest and biggest of the group with a tough-sounding nickname, Rambo, had an idea on how they could make some money. He told them there was somebody with a bounty on his head. "All we need is a gun," he said. Anwan testified that he didn't think Brice was serious at first, but then things started moving. Keur was the one who bought a gun. According to Anwan, everybody knew what the gun was for. There was no doubt it was going to be used to kill someone for money. Anwan told detectives he had never done something like this before. Was he nervous? He said he wanted to get paid, but he was on the fence about being essentially a paid hitman at the age of 15. If you're expecting to hear remorse or sympathy, you won't find it in Anwan, who spoke with little emotion as he retold what happened years later on the stand. He said the group of young men drove around for about 45 minutes until they found their target. The man had long braids and looked like the person they believed had a hit out on his life. According to the prosecution, Maurice drove Brice's blue Mazda. Anwan followed behind in a truck. Brice yelled out the window at the man and then shot him in the street. The gunshot went off and the young men drove off. They went back to Maurice and Larry's house, where Anwan testified that no one talked about what had just happened.
So you don't talk about stuff like that after it happens?
Just let it go.
Why do you not talk about it?
Just let it go.
According to Anwan, they were all supposed to split the bounty money. Only their plan soon fell apart. As it would turn out, they had shot the wrong man. 40-year-old Christopher Jones, a father of 2, died at the hospital.
And that's what he was reduced to after he was shot by Mr. Rhodes. You can see a single bullet wound in his arm, and then the entrance of the bullet wound that turned out to be fatal into his chest. So that's the end of what, if this were a play, if this wasn't so serious, we'd call the first act.
Years later, Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Crit Cunningham told the jury that 2 of the witnesses to Christopher's murder, brothers Maurice and Larry, were then killed next.
A couple different ways it happened, but essentially, Brice Rhodes became aware by overhearing a phone conversation with Keur talking to Maurice, that they were talking about the murder that had happened, that their family knew about it. And as soon as Mr. Rhodes knew that the boys were talking, even just to their family, he knew that they had to do something about these boys to keep them from talking, to cover up this first murder.
All 3 murders happened in May 2016, but Brice Rhodes didn't stand trial until 2023. Throughout the court proceedings leading up to his trial, Brice had been disruptive and threatening. He went through several attorneys. He accused his own legal representation of being racist. He also accused the Louisville detectives of being out to get him. At one point, Brice sought to get the charges dismissed due to what he called police misconduct, but his case wasn't going well. The judge denied his motion. Brice was not happy in court.
Do you think this is the best time?
Even though you show favoritism to the Commonwealth, you denied every motion I've ever filed in this courtroom. I'm still it's my right to file a pro se motion, and it's my right to speak what I need to speak on.
Well,
I don't know if y'all got some type of sexual relationship going on or what y'all got going on, but I'm definitely going to speak my mind.
Detective Tatelli and I have no sexual relationship.
Now I'm talking about you and a prosecutor over there, sir.
All right.
You denied all my motions. Every motion I filed, you didn't deny it.
I'm pretty sure I've been the vast
every motion I filed.
Pro se motions that have ever been
Are you some type of racist? Or y'all got some type of sexual relationship going on? Which one is it?
Or are you just wrong in everything that you've made a motion for?
Are you a secret Ku Klux Klan member?
No, sir, I'm not.
Is that what you really are?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm not.
But like I said, the higher courts, they'll deal with it when time comes necessary.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And
so say less.
One of Brice's attorneys withdrew from the case because Maurice and Larry were the grandchildren of one of his close friends. Brice then spit on his attorney and threatened him by saying, "I'll see you when I get out." During another day in court, Brice blew kisses and pretended to brush dirt off his shoulders and grinned, which appeared to be mocking gestures directed at the boy's mother and other family members sitting behind him. The judge struggled to maintain order in the courtroom. Here's one of the tense exchanges when Maurice and Larry's mother told Brice to stop looking at her, and the judge admonished her.
On the wall where I'm supposed to weigh the pros and the cons. Ma'am.
Stop it. Look at me.
Ma'am.
He keeps tiring.
Ma'am, I told you once before. Let me please help you understand. You can't just talk out like that, okay? If you can't handle him looking at you respectfully, all I can tell you to do is don't be in my courtroom, because he's going to keep doing it, particularly now that he knows that it irritates you. So you either are able to control yourself or you're not. And I would understand why you could not. I get that completely. But I can't have you talking up in court, okay? I need you to hear this. The next time it happens, there will be a consequence. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Rhodes, you're smiling. I don't know why you're smiling.
Because I can.
Well?
Because I can. It's not a crime to smile.
It's not a crime to
Continue
smile.
what you were saying.
But it doesn't help you, all right, to irritate people.
All right.
And you have a lot at stake in this case.
It's not a crime to smile, is it?
I didn't say you were committing
Okay,
crime.
then.
I'm saying
Continue
you're not
what
helping
you were saying.
yourself.
Continue what you were saying.
I'm
allowed to smile.
I would suggest you do what helps
Okay.
you, not what hurts you.
Okay.
That's
do what I
all.
want to do.
Brice had been ruled competent to stand trial, although a state psychiatrist from the Kentucky Correctional Psychiatric Center found him to have concerning personality traits when he evaluated him. Dr. Timothy Allen testified in a hearing that Brice had been diagnosed with being bipolar as a teenager. As an adult behind bars, Brice was now paranoid. He was in a locked room, but laid out traps because he believed someone was touching his soap. He reportedly woke up every 30 minutes in the middle of the night because he thought people were trying to harm him. Dr. Allen said Brice also believed that the prosecutor was trying to poison him in what he thought was a big conspiracy. Brice had a skin condition, and he thought he couldn't bleed as long as he said his prayers. He took medicine for his anxiety, and he said he heard voices he called whispers and saw things moving, which he called shadows. But finally, after years of delays, opening statements began in late 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, callous and casual was the first murder. The two that followed were calculating and cruel. In May of 2016, Brice Rhodes snuffed out the life of Christopher Jones, Larry Ordway, and Maurice Gordon.
Prosecutor Cunningham detailed the brutality of the crimes in his opening statements, as well as the evidence they had pointing to Brice Rhodes. He said a couple weeks after Christopher's murder, Brice's blue Mazda picked up Maurice and Larry from their apartment, and that was the last time that anyone from their home would ever see them alive. The motive for killing Maurice and Larry? He alleged that they had been talking about the drive-by shooting, so Brice wanted to silence them. A key witness for the prosecution was Anwan Carter, who testified in an orange inmate jumpsuit. Anwan's testimony was sometimes hard to understand. He didn't elaborate much, and he mumbled. But the main point of his testimony was clear. The murders of the boys were violent and had been committed by Brice. According to Anwan, the other young men in the group had put Maurice and Larry in the bathroom, while Brice called a vote in the living room.
What happens in the living room?
Should we take a vote?
What's this vote on?
If they should die or not.
If they should die or not? Who's calling the vote?
Brice.
What was your vote?
I'm the one who said no. I said yeah.
Did you think about what would have happened to you if you tried to leave at that point in time?
I ain't had nowhere to go. He lived too far out.
So what happens after the vote's taken? What happens to Maurice?
He put a sock in his mouth, tied his hands behind his back, and put a hat over his head.
And where did he do this?
Living room.
And what happened after that?
He started hitting me in the chest at first.
With an item? With his fist? How was he hitting him?
He was hitting him in the chest with a fist first, and like 3-4 times. And then Tyron passed him the knife. And he started stabbing him.
According to Anwan's testimony, Maurice and Larry were trapped in the bathroom until one by one they were brought out and stabbed to death because of how the majority of the group had voted. Brice, according to Anwan, was the one who killed them, and then he passed around the knife to everyone else, so the entire group would be complicit. Anwan testified that he hadn't tried to escape or save his friends because he was scared he would suffer the same fate if he did. He said Brice left with the bodies, while Anwan and his cousins stayed behind and began cleaning the living room, which was now a crime scene.
What was the process for cleaning up?
We had some bleach. We were scrubbing the floor.
What were you scrubbing the floor with?
Rags.
How long did it take you to do this?
We went from that night to like next morning. We didn't go to sleep.
So you worked through the night cleaning it up? And how long after did Brice come back to the house?
Yeah.
How long was he gone for?
He's gone for a while.
According to prosecutors, Brice's mom and sister were out of town that weekend, so he had the place to himself. The group took the bodies and carried them to his mom's car. Brice then drove off, leaving Anwan and Keur to clean up. There was blood all over the carpet. Brice tossed all of the items associated with the murders in different dumpsters and then lit them on fire. He discarded the bodies at a vacant house near a park. Anwan testified that he changed out of the clothes he wore that day. He then picked up Maurice's cell phone. When it rang, it was Maurice's mom, asking where her sons were at. "They're at the store," Anwan lied, knowing full well they were dead. Anwan testified that he kept using Maurice's phone until he got a visit from police, who saw him trying to hide it. He said it never occurred to him that the phone was traceable. He panicked. At first, he denied knowing Brice and knowing anything about Maurice's and Larry's deaths. Then he said he broke down and told the truth. He told the jury that he told police exactly what he was telling them now. Under cross, Brice's attorney emphasized that Anwan originally lied to the police.
Did you tell the detective at that point that you weren't close to Rambo?
Yeah.
Did you tell the detective that Rambo didn't hang out with Maurice and Larry?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember telling Officer Tonelli that you were not involved in the crime?
Yeah.
Could you answer? Yes. Mr. Carter, do you remember during the interview, Officer Tonelli telling you that Rambo was throwing you under the bus? And at that point, could you answer out loud? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it became Rambo this and Rambo that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And now you tell the detective that Rambo stabbed Maurice and Larry. And that you participated, but he made you do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
In exchange for his testimony, Anwan had made a deal with the Commonwealth. As part of the deal, Anwan pleaded guilty to reduced charges.
The plea agreement says the Commonwealth actually amended the charges. Did they do that as part of your agreement? And it says that it was amended to facilitation to murder.
Yes.
On the 3 original charges. Is that what you pled to?
Yes.
She read out loud the recommendations made by the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth recommends a sentence of 5 years on each count, 3 counts of facilitation to murder, and 1 count of tampering with physical evidence. The Commonwealth recommends a total sentence of 10 years, if to serve, or 20 years if probated, with the sentences running concurrently or consecutively, respectively. The Commonwealth objects to probation. So you only got the offer if you agreed to testify against Brice. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's why you're here today, to get the benefit of your plea agreement. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, you told me you remember talking to me on the phone and my investigator?
Yes.
And you told me I don't even want to come. Is that true?
Yeah.
But yet, the Commonwealth made you come, correct?
Yes.
They made you come and testify against Brice. Yes?
Yes.
Ja'Cory Taylor and Tyron Coleman also made deals with the Commonwealth, receiving 10 years in prison. Like Anwan, they too had been teenagers at the time of the murders. As part of Ja'Cory's deal, he had to testify against Brice. He was called to the stand to testify, and at first, he refused to say anything. But after being warned that he had to answer questions or else be held in contempt and have his deal rescinded, he testified. He admitted to being in Brice's car when Brice shot Christopher Jones, and to being at the house when Brice stabbed Maurice and Larry. He also admitted to stabbing them himself.
I remember him trying to break free, and he pinned him down and began stabbing him. And then after he was down, he handed me the knife and made me stab him as well.
He said he also participated in the cleanup and disposal of the bodies. Among other evidence presented by the prosecution was bloody carpet investigators had pulled from Brice's living room. The blood matched the brothers' DNA.
Police also learned that after this event, after that night, when Brice Rhodes comes back from dropping the bodies off, he picks up the 2 boys that were left to clean up the house. Ja'Cory had with him the boots that he wore in the house. And he left those boots at a girlfriend's house. And so police got a search warrant. They go to that girlfriend's house, and those boots, the DNA on those boots, comes back to the boys as well, corroborating what was said earlier. He also gives a statement to police, and it pretty much matches the statement of Antoine Carter that I've just relayed to you. So, this picture of the apartment, cleanly the flooring was stripped from Brice Rhodes' place. Another thing that police did once the investigation got underway was they went and looked at Brice Rhodes' blue Mazda that had transported the 2 victims in the tote sacks. And you'll notice this is a picture of the back seat of the Mazda. All the cloth seating has been ripped out of it.
According to the defense, however, Brice Rhodes wasn't the killer. Brice's attorney, Wesley Boyarsky, questioned why they were there when she began her opening statements.
2 people have already admitted to killing Christopher Jones. And 1 Carter and Ja'Cory Taylor. 3 people have already admitted to killing Larry Ordway and Maurice Gordon. Again, and 1 Carter and Ja'Cory Taylor, plus Tyrone Coleman. They have all pled guilty to their murders. So why are we here then? Because in order for those men to get very lenient deals from the government, they agreed to testify against Brice. The evidence will show you all that those responsible for the murders have already been convicted and are now trying to put the blame on Brice Rhodes. There's reasonable doubt that Brice Rhodes is guilty.
She adamantly denied that Brice was a murderer. He was just an easy target as a suspect, she said. She accused the Louisville Metro Police of mishandling evidence and of having tunnel vision in their investigation. She brought up the Breonna Taylor case during her opening statements.
And there were 2 lead detectives, as the Commonwealth told you, Detective Griffin and Detective Tonelli, and you'll hear from both of them. But I want you to think about how many hands were involved in this case. When it comes to handling evidence, interviewing witnesses, executing search warrants, mistakes were made. And I want you to think, can we rely on every person that works for the Louisville Metro Police Department? You will learn that the Louisville Metro Police Department investigated these homicides. And once again, this is the same force that murdered Breonna Taylor. Okay.
The judge told the jury to disregard that statement, saying there was no evidence of any relation between this case and Breonna Taylor's. Brice's attorney then continued. She said investigators in the case had even lost a pretty major piece of evidence.
Ladies and gentlemen, no, it was an entire back seat of a car. It's gone. You know how I told you earlier that police stated that Brice's back seat had been removed. Detective Tonelli told a judge and then a grand jury that the Louisville Metro Police Department had found and collected a burnt back seat from a dumpster that matched Brice Rhodes' back seat. And now it's gone. I am mystified as to how you lose a piece of evidence that big. It's huge. It's a huge piece of evidence, not only physically, but to the case as well. So in an effort to get Brice charged, the court was misled, the grand jury was misled about a piece of evidence in the LMPD's possession. Did they lie under oath about having it? Or did they dispose of it because it didn't help their case? You all decide that.
She told the jury that police searched Brice's mother's house, where he had been living, twice, and where the murders of Larry and Maurice were said to have occurred. The first time was a large search with detectives and a crime scene unit. Nothing was found. But then, she said they decided to go back.
The officers go back, decide to search the home again, and now claim that they have found evidence that Larry and Maurice were killed there. Now there's suddenly blood there. First of all, is that how search warrants work? You keep going back until you find something, and if you don't find anything, you find a way to come back and find something. If at first you don't succeed, try again, huh? But that's not how search warrants work, ladies and gentlemen. Despite all of those officers being there, I've never seen a video recording of the search at Hyde Avenue. There's nothing for you all to watch. to see what actually happened. I want you to consider that when you hear about how the evidence was collected. Consider that reasonable doubt as to the guilt of Mr. Rhodes.
She also said that the boy's mother, Elizabeth Wren, had told police about Brice, but suggested she may have had an ulterior motive. She had dated Brice, and their relationship had gone sour.
Evidence will show that she is a known drug user who was aware that her juvenile sons were hanging with Ja'Cory Taylor and Anwan Carter, were involved with guns, and even knew her son's friends bought a gun out of her own home. She was naturally distraught when she spoke to the police, but also very likely under the influence. And I'm not saying that to speak ill of her, but as a jury, you have to know that the police took her statement and did not investigate anyone else. The police didn't care that she hated Brice. The police didn't care that they had a relationship that went sour. The police didn't care that she hadn't actually seen anything. They already had a name, and she was happy to trash her ex-boyfriend.
She said other suspects should have been investigated.
Just prior to the shooting of Christopher Jones, a Louisville Metro police officer reported a suspect in a white shirt, reported receiving a report of a suspect in a white shirt riding a bicycle and waving a gun around in the area. It's not a coincidence. It's a high crime area. It wasn't investigated. Another witness reported seeing a black Chrysler 300M near the scene of Christopher Jones's death, and even stated a person got out and messed with the body, but then fled before the police arrived. This was not investigated. Another possible suspect comes to light in the statements of Anwan Carter and Ja'Cory Taylor. They both described two other men being present at and participating in the murder of brothers Larry and Maurice. Tyrone Coleman was eventually charged and convicted. However, the other individual was not charged or even questioned. There is a reasonable doubt that Brice Rhodes is guilty.
She said there was no clear motive for Brice to have killed anyone.
The police allege that Brice Rhodes shot and killed Christopher Jones in the presence of Ja'Cory Taylor, Anwan Carter, Larry Ordway, and Maurice Gordon. And then about 3 weeks later, the police think that Brice stabbed Larry and Maurice because Brice was afraid they would go to the police and rat. But the other two who were present are still alive. Anwan Carter and Ja'Cory Taylor were there, and they are still alive. Does this make sense to you?
She implied Anwan Carter was perhaps the real killer.
Anwan Carter was facing life in prison for his actions against 3 innocent people. He was facing life in prison. And the prosecution said, that's okay. We'll give you probation. But to get the sweetheart offer, you got to give us someone else. Anwan Carter pled guilty to the murders of Christopher Jones, Maurice Gordon, Larry Ordway. And in exchange for that, the prosecution was okay with probation, or maybe a little prison, left it up to the judge, if you testify against Brice Rhodes. Anwan Carter gave a name, the police took it and ran with it. Up to that point, all they had was kids killing other kids. They wanted an adult to stick it to. And here we are.
Brice didn't testify at his week-long trial, nor did his defense call any witnesses to the stand. After both sides rested their case, the jury began deliberating, which they did for several hours. Then a verdict. The jury found Brice Rhodes guilty for the murders of all three victims, Christopher Jones, Larry Ordway, and Maurice Gordon. The second phase of the trial would determine the punishment. Brice was facing life in prison without the possibility of parole. The defense asked the court for mercy because of his low IQ and intellectual disability, his mental health struggles, and his hard upbringing with his biological mom.
The decision that you have today is punishment. And nothing that we've presented to you over the last 2 days, and nothing that I'm going to discuss with you now, is meant to take away from that accountability or that loss of life. Horrible things were done in May of 2016. An innocent man was gunned down in the street, and 2 teenagers were then brutally murdered. And you've held Brice accountable for his participation in these murders. The murders of Christopher Jones, of Maurice Gordon, and Larry Ordway. You've heard from their family members, those who have lost their loved ones. And I'm going to leave it to the state to discuss that loss, because that's their place. The state now wants you to lock Brice up. They want you to lock him up and throw away the key. And they want you to be angry. I'm asking you to do something different, something difficult, something that may be uncomfortable. I'm asking you to hold on to your empathy and your heart, because no matter what Brice did on his worst days, Brice is still a human being. And so I'm asking you to make a rational decision. I'm not asking you to let him walk out of the courtroom today. I couldn't, even if I wanted to. That's not an option available to you. I'm not asking you to give him a total sentence of any specific term of years. Let's not forget that there is now no small sentence available to Brice now. The minimum available to you to punish Brice is 20 years on each count. And 20 years is a long time. But I'm not asking you for 20 years. I'm asking you to give Brice a chance at parole.
In their arguments to the court, the prosecution brought up the horrific nature of the murders and the devastating effect the 3 deaths had on their families. The jury deliberated and then reached a decision. They recommended life without parole. Before the judge handed down her sentence, the victims' families spoke. Christopher Jones had been a father of 2 when he was shot and killed. The mother of one of his children testified and said what Brice did was unthinkable. She said their family forgives, but for themselves, not for him. She said they don't feel that Brice is remorseful and that they would like the court to uphold the jury's recommendation of life in prison without parole. She said their son was 10 years old when his father was murdered and that he's now 18, about to play football in college. She said she is super proud of her son, whose dad didn't get to be there at his 18th birthday or his graduation. The judge sentenced Brice to 3 life without parole sentences for the 3 murders, 5 years for tampering with physical evidence, and 1 year each for the 2 counts of abuse of a corpse. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram, by tweeting me at CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This case was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.